get started, and we're going to begin with a threat that is emerging at a very rapid pace. We're talking about cyber terrorism. Just about 10 days ago, New Hampshire technology company Dyn was the victim of repeated attacks that wound up crippling internet activity all along the East Coast, including several big-name companies. It was an attack that the experts say could easily happen again. Some people worry that attacks like these could disrupt the financial markets or knock out our power grid. A lot of people are talking about it. We're going to start with Senator Ayotte. As a member of the Homeland Security Committee, Senator, have you recommended any action that should be taken to stop this type of threat?
Well, thank you so much, Josh. It's great to be here tonight with Governor Hassan and all of you. My priority has been to keep New Hampshire and the country safe, serving on the Armed Services Committee, chairing the Readiness Subcommittee, and also on the Homeland Security Committees. This issue of cyber terrorism is a grave threat. I have worked to make sure that there are stronger agreements in place, including supporting legislation to allow the sharing, actually, of information between companies like Dyn and the government when things like that happen, to make sure that we can take the steps we need. If it's a state actor, to be clear and to take affirmative steps, also to help the private companies protect personal information. And we have to take this very seriously, from threats from nation states like Iran and Russia and others who are coming after us. We also can't diminish our military. I've been the only member of our delegation to vote against automatic cuts to our military because Cyber Command, which I support, actually establishing a separate command for Cyber Command within our armed services, needs the support and resources if we're going to stay safe in a very dangerous world and address this threat.
Senator, thanks very much. Governor Hassan, you recently signed an executive order to establish the Cybersecurity Integration Center. The press release that followed was a little bit vague, so I want to ask you what exactly this center does. What do you think we should be doing at the federal level to counteract cyber terrorism?
Well, thank you very much, Josh, for moderating tonight. Thank you, Senator Ayotte, for being here, to St. A's for hosting us all, and to our panelists, and to all of the viewers tuning in tonight. My first job as governor is keeping our state secure and our communities safe. In the United States Senate, my first priority will always be keeping our country safe. Among the things that I've worked on as governor, in addition to adding troopers onto our roadways, making sure that we have active shooter training for our law enforcement and enhancing school safety plans, is cybersecurity, making sure that all of our state employees have cybersecurity training, establishing standards for cybersecurity, getting rid of outdated hardware and software that made us more vulnerable. And the Integration Center you talked about is the next step in that process, making sure that all of the stakeholders in cybersecurity at the state level are working together to share information. And that's also obviously something we need to do with the private sector as well.
All right, thank you, candidates. Let's go to our panel now with the next question on a related topic, coming from John DeStaso to Governor Maggie Hassan.
Thank you, Josh. Governor, how are you? Governor, over the past several months, security experts in the U.S. have pointed to Russia as the culprit in several high-profile hacking cases. Last year, they pointed to China as most likely involved in a theft of data at the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. In cases where U.S. cybersecurity officials have evidence of a hack or cyber attack, should we counterattack, that is, trying to steal information or shut down their systems? Should we counter with conventional warfare, or should the U.S. do something else to respond?
Well, thank you for the question, John, and it's nice to see you tonight, too. Look, everything's on the table when it comes to keeping our country safe. And what we've seen from Russia in particular recently is truly outrageous. There are various acts of aggression, but including what looks like, according to our national security community, aggressive cyber attacks. We've also obviously taken action towards China in response to some of their aggressions in the cyber security arena. But what we know we have to do is continue to confront and hold accountable foreign nations for those kinds of attacks. Among the things that we should consider doing is increasing sanctions against Russia. We know some of the sanctions we've put in place for some of their acts of aggression have, in fact, really caused Vladimir Putin's close business allies grave concern and weakened them. But everything's on the table, and I think it's very important that we continue to combat cyber aggressions and cyber attacks as aggressively as we can.
Senator, good to see you tonight, too.
Good to see you, John.
Same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No,
or is that-
I think very clearly whether it's Russia or China or frankly the country of Iran and other countries who are using cyber attacks, we have to address what they do. And that means having the staffing capability within our armed services. That means making sure that our armed services have the resources that they need and the technological background to do it. And if someone takes a step, we have to address it and hold them and make sure that we address it in turn. But also we need to understand that unfortunately, when it comes to Russia, this administration has not held Russia accountable. That reset policy has been a failure, and that was something, of course, Secretary Clinton pushed. And we've not held them accountable for their invasion of Ukraine or looking at what they have done in violating the INF Treaty, whether it's cyber attacks, whether what they're doing in Syria right now. But you see, when we don't respond or we aren't strong in terms of what we say in return, you're going to see them continuing to act badly.
And I have a follow-up, Senator. It's pretty much accepted that Russia has been trying to influence the impact of our election. Do you think that they've been successful in doing that?
I believe that obviously our top defense and intelligence officials will pursue and investigate anything that Russia is doing and hold them accountable for it and make sure that they do not have an impact on our election or any other matter. And again, this means, I think, being tough on actors like Russia when they are violating international treaties, when they are circumventing international law in terms of cybercrime, and when they're undermining our interests. And, I've been a strong critic of the lack of action against Russia from this administration on the Armed Services Committee, going back probably 4 years from now.
Governor.
Well, certainly we have to do as much as we can to hold Russia accountable. We talked about that just a little bit ago. But look, one of the things that we know we have to do is continue to build our alliances with our NATO allies, for instance, to make sure that we have the resources and the partnerships to hold Russia accountable for its acts of aggression. I am very proud of the fact that here in New Hampshire we continue to have paper ballots and our voting machines are not hooked up to the internet. So that provides some sense of security here for Granite State voters. And I do know that our national security experts are working as hard as they can here to make sure that we are protecting our electoral system. But it is concerning to me that the Republican nominee in the presidential race has showered praise on Vladimir Putin, has praised him in some ways, invited him to make an attack of some sort on our electoral system. And that's one of the reasons I'm so concerned that Senator Ayotte spent so much time supporting the nominee.
Take a quick minute to respond.
When you want to talk about cybersecurity, the Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, that Governor Hassan has followed on so many issues and really have failed to call out on this issue. She set up a private server transferring classified information, one of the most important positions in our government. And that put national security at risk. So if you want to talk about cybercrime, that was really putting information that could have jeopardized our national security at risk. And if she's not going to break with Hillary Clinton on this, when is she ever going to break with Hillary Clinton when it comes to issues where we need to stand up and make sure that we're standing up for New Hampshire and standing up for the people of this country? This was very egregious.
Take 30 seconds, Governor.
Well, I'll always stand up to Secretary Clinton or my party to serve and protect the people of New Hampshire, as I have. I disagree with Secretary Clinton on her support for President Obama's proposal to close Guantanamo, for example. I disagree with her on the internet sales tax. I disagree with her on the vetting of Syrian refugees. But, let's be really clear. And by the way, I have said repeatedly that her use of emails was a mistake. She has said so as well. She has apologized. I think that's appropriate. But what's really on the line in this Senate race is whether we're going to continue to have a senator who fails to stand up to corporate special interests, which is what Senator Ayotte has failed to do,
All right, Governor,
or whether we're going to have somebody who puts New Hampshire
we got to
first.
move forward.